What's going on, Spitfires? Welcome back to another episode of the Spitfire Podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Lemonnian, the Spitfire Coach, and I hope that you are having an awesome end wrap up to your year and are ready to hit it hard and make all of your dreams come true for 2023. Today, I'm going to be talking about a topic that I have heard now twice in a row with my clients. And I'm thinking, if this is happening here, it's probably happening everywhere. And I wanted to bring some attention to it. It's basically, if you are a manager, are you doing the most? Do you care more than your team members? So here's the situation. I've got a number of team leads, team managers who are uncovering some behavioral issues, some performance issues, kind of just a slump in motivation. And what I've noticed is that these managers, these leads are stepping in and they are saying, hey, we have a problem. We need you to change your performance. We need your standards to be higher. We need your productivity to be higher. And here's how you're going to do that. And so what they notice is that there will be initial surge of activity on the other person's part. They're going to see all of these positive changes. And then right afterwards, they notice the decline happening. And so they go on this emotional roller coaster with their team member because they're super excited. They're like, yes, we've got positive change happening. We're making changes. Yoo-hoo. And then they have the emotional dumping of disappointment when things start to slip again and the pattern emerges and here we go again. And so they get emotionally charged. They get completely wound up into the other person's success. And so here is the first tip. Stop doing the most. If you care more than the employee cares, you have already lost because you are creating this dynamic where you are doing the heavy lifting. They're doing exactly as they need to, and you will not see any change happening. So you'll get these like short-term signals because it's reactive to a threat, meaning potentially being on a performance improvement plan or potentially being fired and losing their job. So they are not responding because they want to. It is not self-generated. It is reactive from an external threat. And I want you to just let that sink in. So we get wrapped up in our value as a manager by the success of our team members. And I want you to completely eradicate that belief system because what that does is it sets you up to being attached to their outcomes, which you as a lead, as a manager, have very little to do with. And I know that that sounds crazy, but that's the fact of the matter. Because whether or not someone is successful is 100% up to them. There might be some factors as far as resources and skills and, just having clear instructions and directives. But ultimately, whether or not someone is successful in a role is up to them. The other part of that, and I'm going to have a caveat, is if you are not a good manager, like if you are negative and condescending and all that stuff, like you're going to probably steamroll them and make them very unsuccessful. And in fact, 70% of an employee's experience is connected to their direct manager. But this podcast episode is not for you if you are doing those things. This is more of if you are being the ultra caregiver in the relationship. So what we want to do is break the pattern, the cycle of you coming up with a solution, you fixing it, you getting excited and then disappointed. Because why? You've made it all about you. It has nothing to do with the employee. So how do we switch that? Well, let's think about making the employee the hero of their own story. And so that's going to mean that you need to shut up. You need to speak less. You need to listen. You need to ask curious questions. And you need to let them indicate what they need and what their steps are going forward. Also, you need to understand what your roles and responsibilities are as a manager or a lead. So is it to provide big picture, guidance or big picture goal setting? Sure. It's also your job to make people aware when they're not acting in line with expectations. It's your job to set shared agreements. So we're going to take a very high level. not in a micromanagey way of like, you're screwing up, you suck at this, but more of, hey, here's what we're doing. I'm noticing that this is happening. How do we bring you up a level? What do you need? And then you let the other person talk. So you're going to get a very clear indication of whether or not they're on board or if they want to continue doing what they're doing. And that is your job then to determine, is this workable or is this not? So you can want it so badly for this person. You want them to be successful. You want them to have all these changes and these aha moments, but it's not going to happen if you're the one giving them the answers. And that's honestly why coaching is so powerful, because it creates the space for the client to have the light bulb moments, to allow it to stick. We're creating stickiness, because if I'm feeding answers all day long and telling people how they need to live their life, they're going to become very dependent on me. And when I don't show up that way, or I don't show up when they need them to in that way, they then fall apart, or they don't make progress, or they regress into default behaviors. And that's exactly what's happening right now. So you can care about people, and I want you to care about people. I also want you to make them the hero of their own story. I want you to come in being thoughtful, having clear intentions, bringing about patterns, and then creating the space for kind and compassionate dialogue. I want you to speak maybe 30% max in your meetings with your team members. And for some of you, that's going to be really challenging. But I want you to focus on your breathing and pausing. Do not fill the space with suggestions and advice, because that creates an imbalance in the relationship. It will make you the answer giver, and that is not your job. So think about what would be most helpful for this person. What is it that they actually need from me right now? Not what they should do or what I would do. Think about it from their perspective. Sometimes they just need to be heard. So being able to repeat back in your own words what you're hearing them say allows people to feel more secure and have more belonging. And what's happening right now is that people are reactive. They are afraid, and there is very little, if any, psychological safety in companies. So you have to think about, where can you build those ecosystems of safety and trust? You have that ability just by switching this. These two clients I just talked to have a completely different framework to operate with. They had their aha moments. I just asked one of my clients, what did you notice from your communication that you sent out to your insights that you've had in this call? And they were like, oh my God, I've been so emotionally reactive. Like, I've been all over the place. And they got to decide how they wanted to approach things. They got to determine what they needed to feel more secure in their interactions. And you can do the same thing for your team members. It's about taking yourself out of it. It's about being present for your team members, and about being curious on what it is that's actually going on and what they need. And it's not for you to figure out. It's not for you to assume. You've got to give people space. And they're going to tell you, this is either great for me, this is a good fit, I need support in these areas, or you know what, I'm in over my head and I don't think I can come above water. So become the aha creator. Create the space. Allow people to step into it and lead the charge in their own solutions. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, if you have a situation that you're like, Lauren, please help, feel free to email me at lauren@spitfirecoach.com. Head on over to spitfirecoach.com for tons of resources, including a coach training that is launching in February 2023. That's right. We are launching our first beta cohort. You can get certified as a coach through ICF once we go through the approval process. So head on over to spitfirecoach.com. You can click on coach training, and all the information's there. We are taking enrollment. We will be keeping it small, and we're super excited to actually train and certify coaches going forward. So if you haven't subscribed to the Spitfire podcast, do it now. Share this with a friend, and y'all keep being awesome.